When speaking of the best video game movie, does it have to come from a video game as its source material? In my mind, I would say no. While there are plenty of film adaptations of beloved video games, they are seldom done well enough to please the fans of that franchise. What if the key to a brilliantly made video game movie is to be its own intellectual property first? And that's precisely what Disney did with the Tron franchise, and subsequently, the best video game film of all time, Tron Legacy. There is so much to adore about this movie. Its beautiful neon cityscapes and world building, charming characters, Jeff Bridges reprising his role as not only Kevin Flynn, but a convincing CGI Clue, the film's killer soundtrack. The list really does go on. And while I truly do adore the original Tron 1982 film, for its interesting story and what it did technologically to launch the film industry forward, I earnestly feel that Tron Legacy is the product of the creators having virtually no limitations in the making of the film. Let's start with the visual approach. Tron Legacy is set in its own isolated system, separate from the larger NCOM-controlled systems and the corresponding game grids found in the original film. This right away gives a large explanation as to the massive facelift the film received compared to its predecessor. While the look of the 1982 Tron film is fine, it is very 80s and something that I personally feel wouldn't hold up today. However, it still does hold a very iconic look of muted backgrounds and environments caressed by streams of light that not only accent but help form the entirety of the environments. I absolutely love the look of Tron, and more precisely, Tron Legacy. This film is a natural progression of the original art style found in the 1982 film. Putting them side by side, one can easily tell that while they are in a similar world, it has evolved and become much more. And this is all something that is naturally seen as part of a video game. Now, technically the grid found in Tron Legacy isn't even a game in and of itself. However, the disc battles and the light cycle races are still here, while the representation of space paranoids is still found in the recognizers. Games are still a central plot piece to the film. Heck, don't forget that the whole movie takes place in Tron City, in the Tron arcade machine, and in the back of Flynn's arcade. And I would be remiss if I neglected to discuss the implications of the games on the world itself. Without the presence of Kevin Flynn active on the grid, Clue has been allowed to turn this world of programs into a society hell-bent on power. The games mean everything here. Without their original purpose as programs, now every program on the grid either watches the games, or in the case of an unfortunate few, participates in them. Games that were once meant to be entertaining with only the risk of losing, then competing again, now risk everything by the loser being subject to immediate and complete de-resolution. And without a creator and user on the grid, there is no coming back. Once you are turned into bits, that's it. This world is no longer a game. It's as real to these characters as it is to you and I on the outside. This leads us to the characters. Whether it be our main protagonist Sam Flynn, the naive and sheltered Cora, wise and seasoned Kevin Flynn, the tragically traitorous Rinsler, and even the film's antagonist Clue. All these characters offer something heartfelt and meaningful to the story. Now, I feel like this is still a movie that has a wonderful mystery and adventure to be had if you experience it even these almost 10 years later. So I'll be leaving out some key details of these characters so you can experience the film for yourself and be wowed as much as I have. But let's begin with Sam. Sam Flynn at the surface level is your standard hotshot kind of character. He's abrupt, reckless, and pretty cool. However, add in the fact that he's the heir to a Fortune 500 company that has gone AWOL, the loss of both his parents at a young age, you might realize Sam is a damaged person. He lives in a garage with his dog, getting bailed out of jail for petty crimes with his massive amounts of fortune at his disposal. Normal billionaires might choose to live in a penthouse surrounded by beautiful people and beautiful things. Yet Sam, he never got the chance to know what beauty truly was. So when offered a mysterious clue about his missing father, why would he not at least try? And that's what leads him into the grid, and also our other characters. Cora is one of those characters. Being looked after by Kevin Flynn, she is a program that has access to seemingly divine knowledge from him and from the outside world. This, coupled with her unique and complex programming that is unlike any other on the grid, she is on the path to enlightenment. But due to her being limited to the grid, she can never truly achieve this. Flynn even refers to her as incredibly wise and naive, referring to that she has so much potential to grow, but yet so little room to do it due to Flynn's protectiveness over her. Kevin Flynn was once a very similar person to his son Sam. You can learn all about his younger days in the original film. Although, after being locked inside the grid through Clue's betrayal, he has spent years meditating and waiting for a chance to take control over the grid once again and shut Clue and his evil antics down from the outside. But in his state at the beginning of the film, it's all impossible. In the film, it is said that an hour on the grid is just a minute on the outside world, sort of a time is relative concept. So just to ballpark it, that means that 20 plus years on the outside, he was on the grid for over 1,000 years, gaining wisdom and insight, but ultimately, captive. He wasn't the only one learning though. Clue was doing this as well. However, Clue had the advantage of being in control. Clue began by repurposing programs to follow his will, until one fatal night, seeking to create the perfect system as he had been designed to do, he sought to cleanse the grid of all those opposing his idea of perfection, resulting in the apparent death of Tron, Flynn's most loyal protector. Clue was free to do whatever he wanted, and while Flynn did try to fight back, Clue became impossible to beat from the inside. So there is where our main plot takes place, a race to get the good guys out, and erase the bad guys from the outside. Easy, right? Well, it wouldn't be an interesting movie if we got everything we wanted as a viewer. Along the way, things take unexpected turns as they run into slaves of Clue's occupation, highest of such, the Rinsler. Twisted and manipulated by Clue's repurposing, the Rinsler is a deadly weapon that was once on the side of good, that has now become one of our hero's greatest nightmares. His ability to wield 2 discs, expertise at combat, and seemingly complete obedience to Clue makes the Rinsler an adversary that ruins our hero's plans around almost every turn. Now, this is normally where I would go into the plot of how the story progressed and how a resolution was met for our characters. I earnestly believe that even almost 10 years later after this film has released, it truly holds up and can wow people of all ages. I want you to experience it for yourself. But suffice to say, it's a ride, perhaps aided greatly by the soundtrack so masterfully being done by the electronic music legends Daft Punk. The music captures this sci-fi realm of mystery so beautifully, whether it be the intensity of falling 100 stories to certain death in an elevator or peacefully sailing across beams of light. The music is beautiful. I hope at the very least after watching this video, you have the desire to watch this film for yourself, and hopefully end up loving it as much as I do. It's a spectacular film that I hold dear. It's sad that we haven't gotten a sequel yet, but hey, when your studio's busy making Star Wars and the 25th live-action remake of an animated classic, true works of original art get put on the back burner if they don't perform as well in the box office. I get it. The gap between the first 2 films was almost 30 years. Let's just hope it's not that long of a wait for the 3rd installment in the franchise, because the world needs more Tron.